what for what Shane was saying, they're really for us coming in as a fresh new partner into this world of Omnissa. It's nice because we're able to focus on the new stuff, and we're able to come across with what we know and have known very well for doing Cloud PC now and ABD and Citrix DAS. Really with us, honing in on the thin edge. So that's the key takeaway there. Reducing those components, that pod, that heart and soul of how the pods talk to each other, which each one was kind of its own entity there. And they had the global federation, but really wanting that next ACS, next gen that they're that on that cloud services, and moving more stuff to SaaS, PaaS for that, right? So, and then where does it go with the features and functionality, though? Get into the treats of this, right? So, we've alluded to Blast Extreme. That's really the protocol, right? But fundamentally, what all these break down to, what really what becomes the user experience is the protocol. And Citrix with HDX and Omnissa with Blast, are always rise to the top of the conversation for bandwidth usage. Being able to deal with latency, jitter, those kind of things. They do quite a bit better than like RDP based solutions do when you look at the data. And so, Blast, what it does, it has the same capability with defaulting to UDP, having that intelligence to go TCP. Nothing special there, but it's something what you would expect from an enterprise solution is an enterprise grade protocol to deliver the apps and desktops to your users, right? So, these base stuff, right? All the various peripherals, which you think, that would be expected. I should assume that well, we've dealt with other solutions that that's not the case. You get into some of the other USB peripherals, some of those outliers, and it's just there isn't the support there for some of those funny ones, right? We don't really have to worry about it with this with an enterprise solution like Horizon. It's going to have the full gamut with Blast with what they're doing for the peripheral support, UCC, so on and so forth. The all the various clients, as you can see down there below, no problems there, right? Everything you would expect from that standpoint, and the support for client OS, server OS, Linux. It's not on here, but Remote PC is kind of a base one, right, with the physical stuff. All the things, all the brokering to whatever you would need to broker to for the solution is in the stack, right? So then, as we get to some of the advanced stuff for what Blast can do, right? So some of the bigger candy bars, outside of just the UDP with the fallback to TCP is a graph. So some of the graphical workloads are near and dear to my heart on the NVIDIA side, and what I do here. But really, there's multiple codec options that it supports, right? So they have their own Blast codec now, that really is the successor for the JPEG, PNG side of things. And then for more faster moving video, gamers, graphical heavy stuff, you got H.264 and HEVC, which is H.265 support is there now. That's key, right? So H.265 for really compressing that bandwidth down more so. Obviously, they use more CPUs, so that's where the Blast codec comes into play, where you don't need this to have that higher compression for what that will give you for reducing bandwidth. The Blast codec would be the kind of the better play for the general workloads there, right? So that's one designed for most use cases with the lower CPU usage, just because of the compression algorithms and how it compresses and sends it to the end user. H.264 has the HCA, the high color accuracy, so that 444 support you would want in some aspects for some workloads. Again, these are not for every workload, so it's all about the workloads. But having that capability is important, right? And it's supporting the offloaded NVIDIA GPUs, that vGPU capability with not only vSphere, but Nutanix HV, as we talked about earlier, H.265 with HDR, right? For that high contrast, maybe digital photography, stuff like that. and being able to encode and utilize that, and the GPU does require a GPU for some of these. But being able to do that is big, right, for content creators. It's fully tunable for WAN, lower bandwidth. If you've done that for with HDX before, it's fully baked into the protocol for us to be able to tune that for bandwidth usage, and it can support up to 120 frames per second. Is that a norm? No, and not unless it's more of a game developer, something like that. Usually 60 is just fine for a maximum. So that standard 30, 60, 120 is there. The build to lossless is there too, similar if you're familiar with that. And then what that does, where it doesn't have to do fully lossless, it can build it to lossless. It's a visual. It can build up to that fully lossless, right? Um, and then the full plethora EUCC, right? This is important because some other solutions might not have this, right? So Zoom, WebEx, Teams, even SlimCore, it's tech preview right now with 2506, I think, with SlimCore. But WebRTC has been there a while with Teams. All these that we need nowadays are there. And then the anti-keylogger, the screen capture, kind of that app protection bundle, which, as I dive into some of these individually, I'll talk about that. But environment manager, Shay mentioned that quite a few times. That's it's got two different flavors, standard, enterprise. But standard's more meant to be that profile management play that if you're familiar with what AppSense did or Res Workspace, it's you kind of capture per entity, per application. You're not just doing everything. It's not a container for the full thing like an FS Logics play. But it gives you that capability. It's meant the standard has some base UEM. And then as you get, to the enterprise play there for those entitlements, that's where you get in the security play, right? The privilege elevation, the smart policies, the app blocking control, the ADMX import, so on and so forth. And then what does that look like? Really, it comes into the middle for keeping the OS clean, throw the applications on top of that. Settings are brought in, they now have computer environment settings, all that stuff you can do in DEM, and you bring that into play. We used to be heavy on the Res Workspace side, AppSense. It's very similar to that for what you're needing to do there for personalization. So app volumes, we spoke heavily on app volumes, incredible technology delivered on demand user or at user connection, similar to the elastic layer scenario. Writable volume, similar to the user profile layer. If you need that non-persistent, but persistency on top of it. Physical, virtual, even non-horizons, the interesting one there, right? So I had a customer that was CVAD that was using app volumes and licensed app volumes to be used because it's credible tech, and they were using it on top of that, right? So has all the ones you can write on top of, and then instant clones. What is it? Instant clones was tied to VMware. It was only vSphere only. Well, that's the big thing now. It's HV is with the instant clones, right? So it's not just the VMware API to be a VMware tie-in and requiring that. It gives you that just-in-time desktop in seconds. It's very quick when you're talking Citrix MCS. Citrix MCS uses a disk behind the scene as copies. It's not as quick as instant clones. Instant clones it took the memory of the running VM and it would spit them out nearly instantly, within seconds, if you've seen it work, and it was all VMware. But now that's the difference is now we have that on something else. And it's a nice pairing with the DEM, the app volumes for really pulling these all together. And then, you have something niched with the streaming. So I was a big fan of Citrix used to have streaming. They don't have this anymore, right? But then full isolation and portability for an application still there, still in the product, still licensed for everything, all the different levels. But really, you can use this in conjunction with app volumes. App volumes can deliver a thin-app portable app on top of that. Bring that into the OS. The help desk tool, that's your kind of your Citrix Director basic functionality for troubleshooting, managing user sessions. Like I said, put here, otherwise known as the frontline help desk tool, right? Log on time breakdown, real time session. It's not going to be like your Omnissa Intelligence, which I'll talk to here in a second. But that's your basic help desk tool that you would expect, right? Hybrid cloud, we've talked plenty about this, gives you that portability to be able to take anywhere. SaaS has that edge and that more native cloud API capability there. Recording, right? So That's the security play as well. Not only just troubleshooting, but security play, being able to record the whole session. If you're using that with any other solution, this is an enterprise feature. Security, compliance, troubleshooting. Again, it's enterprise also as far as how it's licensed on the Horizon 8 term. As enterprise, you got to be at the enterprise level in SaaS. You pretty much get it in all of them, but one maybe. Agent auto updates there, which interestingly enough, 2506 now does the other agents. So that's kind of nice for the DEM, Outline's agent, even the telemetry agent, I think, is in there. Getting into more your if you're familiar with any of the Citrix stuff with global app configuration service, we have some of that capability now here. So there's really nothing that we're missing from that standpoint. UCC, I talked about that, Slim Core Tech Preview, and then the anti-screen capture and keylogger for both. I don't have it there, but both Windows and Mac. So pretty cool there from that standpoint.